The combine is officially over, which means more mock drafts for all of us. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing a live mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. Now, what do I mean by live? We will be role playing as the Packers front office, going through all their selections on the mock draft simulator. So, while we're doing that, be sure to leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts on these selections and what you'd want to see the Packers do for each pick. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and tackle that bell to get notified when new videos come out. And Ryan, let's pull this up here on PFF.
Yeah.
So the first couple picks before them, just frame of reference: Jahad Campbell to the Seahawks, Kelvin Banks to the Bucks, Kenneth Grant to the Broncos, Derek Harmon to the Steelers, and then Josh Simmons to the Chargers here. So interesting. Emeka Egbuka is still on the table as of right now. They also still have several good defensive line guys available for them. And I think that's one thing too, that I've noticed trying to do my self evaluation of the Packers is I've been harping on secondary, 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 and that's
Mhm.
absolutely going to be a need for them, especially too if they trade Jair Alexander. But I also think too they still need some help in that front seven as well, and kind of where they're sitting, just looking at overall value wise. I'm kind of liking going defensive line here in some
Yeah.
capacity. Walter Nolan's a guy we haven't done yet on any of our mock drafts here. I think that would be interesting. Shamar Stewart, I think, would be very interesting as well. Nick Scorton also too. So, what are kind of some of your thoughts, and which way are you leaning here?
Yeah, I do think Mykel Williams would be a really solid pick. He's a really good run defender as well. That interior, I believe, is pretty solid, but I do think Walter Nolan could be an option as a disruptive defensive tackle. Shamar Stewart, I really like his numbers and just overall athleticism. And then corner, this is kind of a tough spot for corner. I think you get down here, you start to see guys like Siobhan Ravel, Maxwell Hairston, and maybe like Darian Porter, but he might be available down at their next pick. And so I think that kind of going with one of these two edge rushers, I think makes a lot of sense with the way that the board fell for them.
Yeah, I like that route. Which one do you think you want would fit better in
Let,
a Packer system?
Let's go with Mykel Williams. They've drafted Georgia defenders before. I feel like you have him and like Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary, who is it? Dion it's not Dion
Uh,
Walker.
they
Uh
have Kingsley Ngabore. They have Quay Walker
yeah. Yeah,
as a middle
yeah, Quay
linebacker.
Walker.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then and so I feel like he would fit in that system uh
yeah,
pretty well. Also it's
that works.
Kingsley and Enagbari is
Kingsley,
how
yeah, I'm sure I pronounced
and
it wrong, and so I apologize, Kingsley.
but
Sitting here
this
now, so I see your point now about Darian Porter being there.
yeah, and you have Azariah Thomas. I just feel like this is a better value spot for corner.
Yeah, I also think too as well is it's an interesting spot as right now because within their third round pick, it's probably going to be too early for the corners that are there, and then when they get to 124, a lot of those corners might have fallen off here. So, just logistically speaking, this does seem like the corner spot for them,
Mhm.
and I think Darian Porter would be interesting as right Thomas as well. Benjamin Morrison might be a flyer. We're going to have to double check and see how his not we I just mean everybody in general, Packers as
Yeah.
well. Even though I know we're role playing in this situation as the front office. Uh, I think Benjamin Morrison would be great value if his hip is healthy. That's just going to be the big thing overall.
Yeah, he is by far the most talented corner on the board here. It's just if if that hip is going to hinder him throughout his NFL career, do you want to spend a high pick
Yeah,
and take that chance? So I'm leaning towards Darian Porter for that reason. You could take the big swing with Benjamin Morrison, but what do I know? I'm just some dude in an office.
kind of not even an office actually. It's also like a craft center as well. So let's go
Sure.
Darian Porter.
Okay.
So let's do that. And then here with this next pick, so we've gone edge rusher. I think this could be where they end up taking that receiver off the board. Go
Yeah.
get some more weapons here. Center would be interesting. It's going to depend on if they
Oh,
re-sign
man,
Josh
that
Myers.
4 receivers just went off the board.
Jeez, we are they are listening to us. PFF has Mike's all the main receive like
Yeah. You have
jeez.
Trey Harris, Isaiah Bond, but there's a lot of overlap there with Jaden Reed, in my opinion. Trey Harris is the guy, I think, if you want one. He's the true outside guy. Christian Watson, who knows the timetable for his return. So,
I like Trey Harris too because one thing about
okay.
Trey Harris, just from watching his film, is it's like he and double check his stats here. I want to make sure because he does have a lot of yards after catch, but if I'm not mistaken, where's the
Uh,
yards after catch per reception, so 7.7. And to me, I think a lot of that is also too. It's like they would run like 4 verts or 3 verts, and then Trey Harris would just run underneath, and they would just dump the ball to him.
yeah.
And so he's got that athleticism where if you give him the ball, but I think a guy like Matt LaFleur could really find ways to utilize his athleticism and his skill in that X position to create opportunities for him to succeed. And so I think Packers is a good destination for him
Mhm.
as well as he still develops as a receiver because he's got the talent. We've all seen it there on the film.
Yeah, he's also and I agree, so let's go ahead and take him, but I do think too in that Packers system, they don't have a wide receiver one. I do think Trey Harris will be asked to play a specific role, and I feel like that's the best situation for him is he's not gonna go there and be asked to do a bunch of different things. He's gonna be
Exactly.
the outside receiver. He's gonna run deep routes, deep over the middle, and kind of do what he does best and nothing else. So I
Yeah.
like that fit there. We've addressed all the major needs so far: edge, corner, wide receiver. Still need to address that offensive interior. I do think there's at their next pick might be a good spot to maybe look at like a Connor Colby, Jonah Monheim. Uh, we
Yeah.
could take like a Willie Lampkin now, but I just think some of these guys might be better value a little bit later. I don't know if there's anything else that is catching your eye.
Well, my one thing, I think it's not even just interior. I think it's specifically just center, and we're going to find out
Okay.
more about what the Packers end up wanting to do with that position. Because, like, are they going to sign Josh Myers? Are they going to try and go after Drew Dahlman? Are there other? I'm trying to think of what other centers. Ryan Kelly. Are they going to splash and try and maybe sneak Ryan Kelly away from the Indianapolis Colts. And so when we find out that decision, then that will definitely change my eagerness to draft a center here. I think with their next
Okay.
pick, there's guys like Jake Major, Seth McLaughlin that I think might be available. There's even some other centers later on that I'm blanking on. Uh, but that could be potential guys. Um, if you want to do interior offensive lineman here, there's another guy, Jake Majors. There's one more I thought. Or maybe some of these other
Uh,
guys could kick in. Drew
Drew Kendall,
Kendall, Cooper
Cooper Mays.
Mays.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
few guys.
yeah. And so there's some guards I think that could potentially kick in as well. So until then, I think right now I would almost maybe even think about double dipping at receiver, double dipping at the defensive line or the secondary because I think that's really going to be the area that they're going to need some improvement at. Uh,
Another guy with some size, I think, would be Kobe Hudson. Pat Bryant has size too. Kobe Hudson was a little bit faster.
yeah,
Um, I think that would be interesting
yeah.
there. It's also a name we haven't done yet. If you want to do Kobe Hudson,
Let's wait and see what secondary guys are still available because this is also a very popular spot for some secondary guys
yeah, that's
that
fair.
we've been finding.
Zy Alexander, Quincy Riley might be one. I do like Billy Bowman. He is a little bit more. I think there might be some overlap there though with oh, what's the guy they just signed from the Giants?
Xavier
Xavier.
McKinney.
Yeah, Xavier McKinney.
I would
And
almost
so
think getting a nickel corner or getting an outside, like we
let-
would want
let's
to
get
go
let's
Quincy
get Quincy
Riley.
Riley. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's more who they would be wanting to target at this
Currently,
point
as of right now,
in
they
the
do have
draft.
Javon Bullard as like the nickel guy as well.
Yeah, and
But
that's fair.
he played a lot of snaps in the slot. I think he might be a little bit more as kind of like that strong safety guy, kind of over the middle instead of in the nickel, or maybe they can
Yeah.
increase some different formula, some different formations. So at minimum, I think it's just good depth overall.
Mhm. Seth McLaughlin is here at this pick. If that's something that you still want to maybe touch on that offensive interior, or that center position specifically. Uh,
Yeah, we could do that. We could. Mm. We can double dip on the defensive line again here if we'd be interested. Let's do that center spot right
okay.
there. This seems like a good spot for them. Maybe this will change a little bit once when we know, like when they re-sign, if they sign Drew Dahlman hypothetically to a 4-year deal, they might just keep Jacob Monk as that backup center, that guy that can kick around the interior offensive line who they drafted last year. They do have
Okay.
Jordan Morgan also, and so maybe that he can kick in there as well. I guess that would be something I'm curious on Packers fans, just a little bit more knowledge on their thought process.
Yeah. No, I think, uh, it's definitely an option. You also are always looking for interior offensive lineman depth. Um, but with that being said, you don't wanna, like, overload a position with, like,
Exactly.
7 people. So, uh, here, let's do a quick recap. So, edge rusher, Micah Williams; corner, Darian Porter; wide receiver, Trey Harris; uh, corner, Quincy Riley; Seth McLaughlin, the center there as well. I do think maybe look at wide receiver again. That would be an interesting one. Uh Ty Felton will not be here at 200, so we can ignore him. Efton Chisholm is an interesting guy. He is, uh, well, from Eastern Washington, but he had a really good Shrine Bowl, a very under the radar prospect. But I think if you're looking for a guy that's going to be more of a true slot, I think that's exactly who he is going to be. So you look a lot of production there with 1,300 yards, but a lot of reports were saying that he was just uncoverable at the Shrine Bowl.
Let's do that. I like that because
Okay.
honestly, if you look at that receiving room, so they did end up getting Trey Harris, yes, but Christian Watson right now, as you said, towards ACL, unsure where he's at, and the only other receivers they have on roster: Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, and then
Yeah.
Malik Keith
A lo
as
a
well.
lot of size in that room. So,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, next up, I mean, kinda best player available at this point, um, could go with, like, a Jalen Walker or Smile Munden. Ty Robinson, I feel like might be their type of defensive lineman. Reminds me a little bit of, like, a day 3 Lucas Van Ness. Um, could get some running back depth just because AJ Dillon is a free agent. You need somebody to take some snaps in between. Uh,
They did get Marshawn Lloyd. Let's double up on the USC running backs, and
okay,
then it could be a Josh Jacobs USC running backfield.
sounds good. All right,
So
and then last pick here for the Green Bay Packers. Not seeing a whole lot. We double dipped it at corner. We double dipped at wide receiver. We got an edge rusher.
if there's one
Um,
thing, I think getting the front, somewhere in the front seven, so like
okay.
linebacker, get
Uh,
defensive tackle.
let's let's get Gathan Burndahl. I we just haven't done him yet on this, but uh I think he's just going to be a middle linebacker, probably play special teams for you, but he's a little bit undersized. So,
I like it.
all right, that will wrap up this mock draft here for the Green Bay Packers. Do a quick recap and just our thoughts. But the Packers are an interesting team. I feel like the last couple of seasons, I like they have a lot of talent, and I feel like they've been really good in spurts. 2 years ago, it just happened to be like right as the playoffs were starting, and then this past season, I feel like in that middle part of the season, they really kind of hit their stride, and then we're kind of coming down towards the playoffs after that Week 18 loss, and then getting bounced in the first round. So I do think they have a lot of talent. I think this is a really good draft for a team like that, where they already have talent. They just need to kind of bolster up the trenches, add some depth pieces, and really strengthen the middle part of that roster. So I think going out, getting an edge rusher and a corner early on, address those two needs immediately, sets themselves up well to take best player available throughout the rest of the draft.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things too. If you go look at this roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, like they're pretty young all around. It's like I think I might maybe some offensive line guys might be older, but I think like Josh Jacobs is the most senior guy on that Packers offense. And
Mhm.
I might be off by like one player, but the vast majority of them like are still pretty young on rookie contracts. And so I think that's good for the future as well. They keep on learning. I really trust Matt LaFleur because I remember a lot of people were questioning just what would happen to this team like that first year when Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, and that was the full year that Jordan Love got together, and it was the season as you're talking about, or the full first year that Jordan Love got the full reins to be the starting quarterback, and first half of the year struggled, but second half of the year that was when they might have been the best team in the league. They just shot themselves in the foot in the divisional round and blew the
Yeah.
game against San Francisco, but they were that offense was almost unstoppable, it felt like. And so they had some injury bugs last year, but if they can come back and be healthy, this defense improves, gets just to around average. I think with the way that this offense can put up points, this defense can just contain and not allow like the big explosive plays. Then I think this could be a team that we could see make another deep run into the playoffs.
Yeah. So I like the Packers and what they have going on. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of this Packers 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? Than that, we'll see you guys next time.